There are amazing abilities, weapons, and more you can already get early in Final Fantasy 16, so let's go over the important unlocks right here without any story spoilers. I want to start by looking at the settings menu, because there's one thing you totally want to switch on, which is all the way down under the camera settings. It's called target follow, so when you normally take out an enemy, the camera will stay behind you, even if your next target is off screen, so then you have to manually change the camera. But with this feature turned on, the game will do that for you, so you will immediately focus on the next enemy, even if it's standing behind you, which is really helpful. So I want to share some tips on how the crafting works. Like the first time you reach the hideaway, you can already leave with a +2 sword that will have the best attack for that current level. Maybe you've already done this, but all you need to do is the Food for Thought side mission that you find in the Fat Chocobo very close by. It only takes a few minutes and gives you the materials you need to get to +1 and then the +2. Like overall, if you don't mind like not continuing immediately with the main story, I would recommend doing all the side missions in the game, as they're all very short and give you some nice rewards. Like the first time you get to the hideaway, there's also a second mission, Make Do or Mend, and this gives you a meteorite and a gil bug, and gil bugs can of course be sold for 200 gil. They have no further use, but it's even easier to use the sell all valuables feature with the touchpads to immediately sell all the otherwise useless items. And going back to crafting, because it's always smart to craft the best weapon when it's available, and this sometimes earlier than if you would just follow the main story. Like after reaching your first waymark, for example, you can check the hideaway and see a gold dot at the blacksmith, meaning that new items are available, which usually contains a better weapon. You can get the +2 weapon in two ways. You can immediately craft the +1 version and then upgrade it to level 2, which I did at first, but it's actually smarter to buy the regular weapon at the shop close by and then upgrade that to +1 and then to +2. Sure, it will cost some gil to buy the weapon, but to get it to +1 will cost you way less Wyrite than if you would craft the +1 weapon outright, and it's way easier to get some money than to get the Wyrite. So yes, I think buying the weapon first and then upgrading it to +1 and then to +2 is smarter. Like overall, always buy a new weapon upgrade when it's available early on in the game, even though you switch out weapons quite fast, because having the extra attack is great. After the Wings of Change main mission, you can already craft a purple weapon that you will upgrade throughout the whole game, so don't sell it if you got a better one. I overall don't sell my weapons anyways. And also after the Wings of Change main mission, you want to look at the Belt and Bracer tab of Karen's shop, as she will then sell the Goldwork Sash and the battle chains. Like both are huge upgrades for the relatively low price. I never used any crafting materials on belts or bracers early on in the game, but buying these and then holding on to them until you get the amazing main story purple upgrades is totally worth it. Want to touch on some amazing abilities you can already get early and other items you want to be using. Of course, if you like the video so far, then leaving a like would really help me out, and subscribe for way more spoiler-free Final Fantasy 16 tips and tricks like this. You totally want to be using the Cleric's Medallion Amulet that you get during the Louder Than Words main mission pretty early on. This makes sure that your potions give you 20% more healing, which is really great. Like I had this equipped throughout the whole first part of the game, just like the Ring of Timely Assistance that lets Torgal do his attacks automatically without you having to do anything. It's of course up to you if you want to use it, but I like it because this lets me focus way more on the combos I want to do with Clive without having to worry about Torgal's special skills. Like even early on in the game, Clive already has a ton of abilities available, but some are certainly way better than others, but luckily you can reset them at any time and spend the points towards the best skills. I also got a very nice early ability point farm, so you can unlock those super expensive early abilities way faster. First up though, I want to look at the first ring, where I can totally recommend that you upgrade the Magic Burst. This namely makes sure that these triangle attacks in between your regular sword swings will be way easier to pull off, and this will of course overall increase your damage output by a lot. Also, if you got this combo going, then every fourth hit with the Magic Burst deals more damage and also blasts away smaller enemies, so you can follow up with a dash and do a mortal blow to finish them off. Really nice to get this playstyle into your system, and this upgrade again helps you pull this off. I also upgraded the Precision Dodge ability. This also makes it easier to do these perfect dodges, so you can slow down the time time and follow up with a powerful strike. Especially handy to counter stronger attacks from the bosses, like really helped me out throughout the game. You saw me do it here too, but totally spent the 10 points in the swift recovery, like that will really keep you in the flow of combat, especially during boss battles. Doing a parry is of course a bit harder, because then you have to hit the enemy just when they are about to strike you, but with the Burning Blade skill, you can actually secretly increase that parry window. Burning Blade is namely slower, so you have a longer time to strike the enemy when they are about to hit you, so it's easier to trigger the parry and then you can get a ton of hits in, lower the stagger bar significantly. Like I've been using this tactic against tougher enemies with slower attacks and it's really great. Moving on to the active skills for the Phoenix, I personally got Heat Wave as soon as possible and exchanged it for the Rising Flame, as I found Heat Wave way better. Like you already do damage with the initial slam and then you follow up with a Flame Wave after only spending 120 ability points, but then upgrading it with 600 extra ability points adds a second wave to it as well. That upgrade is not needed though, like just make sure that you got the regular ability, that's already good enough, although it's of course obvious that Flames of Rebirth for 1695 is by far the best Phoenix spell. Like this lets you clean up groups of enemies with just one attack, and if the enemies survive, they usually only need a few more hits. But that's not all. If you have some gray health in your bar after taking damage, then this ability will also heal up to that point in your health bar. The only downside is that it has a very long cooldown of 2 minutes, so that's way longer than the Heat Wave, for example, which is only on cooldown for 25 seconds. You unlock the Garuda ability section a few hours into the game, and I kept the first 2 active skills and waited till I could unlock the Aerial Blast Tornado that cost 1540 ability points. You already saw footage of it in the video, but yeah, it lets you summon this amazing tornado on the battlefield for 15 seconds that will suck smaller enemies in, making them unable to do anything back. It interrupts larger targets, dealing a ton of damage over time. It's really fun to then grab nearby targets, by the way, so they get trapped in the tornado as well, and if the current target is dead, the tornado will move to the next prey. It's really the most fun ability you can get early on in the game, and by the way, upgrading it increases the duration to 25 seconds, but yeah, you don't need to upgrade it. Like already unlocking this ability early on is quite expensive. Luckily I found a really nice ability point farm that you can do very early on after that Wings of Change mission. They can namely fast travel back to the Caer Norvent Glorious Gate, where on your left you find a soldier and an Avis, and after taking that out you find a group of 3 Imperials that you can very easily nuke with an AoE attack. Like this lets me almost instantly kill them. And then by taking out both groups that cost like 2 minutes max, you get almost 100 ability points. Then travel back to the hideaway, travel back to the Caer Norvent Glorious Gate, and they can repeat this tactic. You can also just focus on the Imperials if it takes longer to kill the Avis. For me it doesn't matter anymore because I just drop all the powerful abilities because the cooldown resets when going back to the hideaway. Now worth noting is that this farm is only available in the early part of the game before you do the Righting Wrongs main quest. So after that it won't be available. Still though, you can use this tactic to get an unlimited amount of potions. Like maybe you already noticed it, but every time you go to the Caer Norvent Glorious Gate fast travel point, the blue sparkles will reset. Like this happens every time you fast travel in and out of an area, and this is by the way the case for every blue sparkle in the game. They also give the exact same item every time, so in this case it means that you can farm an unlimited amount of high potions for free, but you can also sell them if you want for 200 gil. Next to high potions, you can actually also find 2 regular potions nearby, so grab them as well. Smart to kill the group of soldiers for the extra AP, and then just go back to the hideaway, go back to this fast travel point, and you can grab the potions again. Like, it's not a really good money farm because money is easy to get, but it's still nice to know that you can stack up on potions for free with this tactic. And maybe you already saw me use 2 other Fire Phoenix type abilities that I totally can recommend after you unlock them, which a bit later on in the game, but still relatively early. My favorite of the 2 is totally the Will o' the Wisps, which gives you these fireballs around you that negate incoming damage, but also deal damage constantly to nearby enemies. Now I found that this in particular really helpful for nuking stagger bars from enemies, because these fireballs stay for a long time as long as they're not destroyed by the enemy. So yeah, I use the Flames of Rebirth and the Will o' the Wikes as my 2 Phoenix ability. There's also the new Ignition ability that can be really strong if you're able to hit one target with the full effect, or maybe even capture multiple, so totally a solid option, especially if you're fighting weaker targets without a stagger bar. Of course, if you got any tips for early on in Final Fantasy 16, let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe for way more spoiler-free tips and tricks like this. A like on the video would of course really help me out. And check out our other tips and tricks video by clicking on the screen if it's already up. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.